Hey Rani, welcome to 11 Questions.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you for being my guest today.
I'm so excited. This is like the coolest concept I've heard in a long
Thank you. So, jumping into it, my first question is what's your educational or professional background?
I studied chemical engineering for my bachelor's degree, largely because I am very Indian. My parents were like, if it's not a professional degree, why would you do it? And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. The day I graduated college, I joined one of my friends' startups called Monkey Bars. And it was all about how to set up hackathons. And for the tech community, it was me and two other people. So I gave myself a title of communications lead or something. And I knew I could like type and write pretty okay. And then that was in 2014. That blossomed into a legitimate communications and content social media career. So I'm currently a content and social media manager on the brand team at a company called Trello.
Yeah, I've used Trello.
Nice. I feel like a lot of creatives do gravitate towards Trellos. Loving it there. Big pivot from chemical
Yeah,
engineering.
I can see that.
Yeah.
That leads me to my next question. Did you always want to be an author? Because that's like another pivot.
I get this question asked to me quite a bit. It's kind of like I would have always enjoyed the option to be an author. It's kind of like if somebody found the average person, they're like, hey, do you want to be a supermodel? Do you want to be a movie star? I think the average person would be like, yeah, I would enjoy that experience. Like, thank you. So I think a part of me is like, I would have loved to have been an author. Like, that would have been something I would have enjoyed doing. I never actively pursued it. The way my book came about, I've always enjoyed writing. I've always been not terrible at it, which is a very imposter syndrome way of saying I'm pretty good at it. Getting a book opportunity came by surprise. It wasn't something I planned for. So, yes, I always wanted to be an author, but I never expected to be one. I am thrilled that I got this chance. Seeing your name on a piece of text just feels very, very gratifying.
I can only imagine.
So it's been a great experience.
Do you have a role model in life?
I don't think I have one person that I just consider them my model. I feel like I have an ecosystem of role models, if that makes sense. My family is humongous. I grew up in a big fat Gujarati family. Grew up with all my masis, masas, boys who was for Gujarati. It just means your aunts and uncles, maternal side, paternal side. So I grew up with a lot of family. My grandparents lived maybe 2 miles away from my house, all my mom's siblings. I grew up with a lot of cousins. I would say my role models would be just the way in which my parents and I
Mm-hmm.
think my aunts and uncles and my older cousins, younger cousins, my grandparents, I think the way they live their life is a big part of being a role model for me, which I think
Mm-hmm.
it comes down to, I think there's like this Hindi saying, like "Khao pio mazakaro" or something like that. And so it's like eat, drink, and have fun. And
There's also a Punjabi song which literally says the same thing.
I think there's like a thing, right? And it's like, I love that. I think it's also a very Indian culture thing, which I appreciate, which is basically like the crux of it just means eat, drink, be merry. I love that. My family, I think, takes that on as like the priority in life should be eating good food, having a good time, and being happy. And I think whatever means it takes to get there, it's what the priority should be.
I love that answer. Going back to your book, you have so many different animals in it. So I have to ask you, what's your spirit animal?
I've always loved octopuses, and that is the plural. Talk about that in my book. Love octopuses. Favorite animal. And I don't know if that's who I can identify with. Realistically, I'm like a cat. I just eat. I want to nap. I get hyper sometimes. I can be kind of reclusive. I can be kind of cuddly. It's. I think as a person, my physical manifestation would probably be a cat. What I would like to be, I like to think my mind is like an octopus, which is flexible. There's like 8 tentacles, going like reaching for everything. A lot of octopus species actually can like camouflage like crazy. So I just love that they are flexible in their extremities, but also their environment and how they kind of, adjust to everything. And I think it's also just so sneaky, so badass. Like how cool would it be if you're walking home and like you're kind of scared, so you like disguise yourself as a mailbox, like he's so cool. Like no one bothers you until like you're out of harm's way. So I'm probably literally a cat, but I'd like to think I'm working towards becoming an octopus.
Okay, so you're a cat who wants to be an octopus.
Yeah, I'm
Got
an
it.
octocat.
Sure, let's make that a thing.
Yeah, that's my next book, everybody. How to become two animals.
So you have written this book and you have put your work out there. It's inevitable that you'll get both positive, negative feedback. Do you think you're good at taking criticism and how do you handle it?
I think I've gotten better at handling criticism. I think inherently, from the moment we were born, I think everybody is terrible at handling criticism. It's just not a normal reaction, like, wow, thank you so much for like the negative thoughts. I really like nobody thinks that. Everyone's like, shut up, man. Like, stop, like stop dissing my like, no one wants that. However, I think ever since I started working, probably in my professional life, I think having a job or being in any sort of professional situation, you kind of have to deal with criticism. It's going to happen, whether or not you agree with it, whether or not it's legitimate, whether or not you expected it. So I've gotten better at it. As you experience more, you realize that not just feedback, but also failure is a part of life. I love talking about failure. I think I failed a lot. I literally failed a lot of classes in college. Like I failed a lot of things, but with failure comes a lot of self-criticism. I don't think I've gotten better at that. I think I'm my biggest critic. I think I'm also Indian, so it's like inherently in our culture, it's like,
It's in the
oh.
DNA.
Also, if no one's criticizing you, I think that means nobody cares. So I kind of see it in a positive way. Okay, someone gave me
Hmm.
some feedback. I've gotten better at handling criticism, and that's all I can hope for. I don't think I'll ever master it, but as long as I'm improving, I'm okay.
And what's the best praise that you have gotten?
Oh my God, don't do this to me. Oh. Two things I'm really proud of with the book. One thing, publisher, what's the name? Publishers Weekly? The the publishing people. they People who give reviews. They left me a very positive, thoughtful review, and I'm very thankful for that. That meant a lot. Like I still totally secretly look at that review sometimes when I feel down. Um, One of my aunts emailed me after reading this book, and she just was so proud and happy. And she's totally biased. Like I know she's my aunt. Like she's my Mousy. She's gonna be biased, but just the fact that someone took time out to tell me how they felt. Thank you for asking that question because it forces me to feel better about myself, which I can only say thank you for.
Your book also touches a lot on mental wellness. So, are there any tips that you implement in your life?
This is very cliche, but literally the book is about a jellyfish. One of the chapters, and it's about taking rest and breaks in between. I don't think most of us grow up in a culture where taking a break is encouraged or taught. I think we
Mhm.
see breaks like, oh, if you're exercising or running, then yeah, you'll take a break to like, sit, drink water. But I don't think we see our brains and our health that way, which is a shame because I think most people have all experienced some form of burnout in their life. I definitely have. I go through cycles of burnout, but I've gotten better at understanding what's happening. So my biggest feedback and tip and favorite thing from here is the jellyfish. I tell people it moves like this. And in order for it to move forward, it has to pause and release. I think as people, we also need to do that because it goes back to just this bigger underlying question of what is the purpose of being around. And if the purpose of life, I don't know what it is, but I know what it's not. It's not to be stressed out. That is not what we're here for. Another one that I've always really loved is I talk about the shrimp. There's like two types of shrimp I talk about, which they're super, super weird and super cool. Basically, when I think about shrimp, they're like these like small, puny little pathetic things that people eat in like fancy rich people dinners. But there's different types of shrimp and they're tiny, but we don't realize their impact. One of them is a pistol shrimp that can basically incapacitate prey by like making a loud sound. They are small but mighty. I think we need to remember that about ourselves. Nobody's too small to make a difference. I think that is something to remember when we feel helpless. I think shrimp are a great example of you can have a high impact even if you don't physically feel large or you don't mentally feel super powerful. You have that capability. So always protect that and don't underestimate what you can actually do.
I think that's great advice. And now you mentioned that you are on Twitter a lot. Instagram is another big one where I am a lot. And you can't help but see a lot of mental health advice, which isn't correct always. Is there any problematic advice that you have seen a lot?
Toxic positivity. It's like that comic of that dog sitting in a room where everything's on fire, and it's like everything is fine.
That's my
Um,
favorite, though.
that's like, yeah, I think I'm just gonna get tattooed on my chest. It's like that's that's when you look, it's when you brand. I think toxic positivity, from what I understand, it's basically when you are told things will be okay, kind of being in denial of certain things, forcing yourself to look on the bright side. There's no right or wrong way to feel when you are sad. It's okay to just be like, oh, this shit sucks. It doesn't have to become this like beautiful lesson at the end of it. It can just be like, yeah, I'm going through something and this sucks. And the only advice I can give for that is like, just like any positive moment, it's like any high you're gonna feel in life, any low will also pass. Nothing is permanent. So I think toxic positivity is interesting to me. I think it's something people do with a good intention. I read this great quote, and it's like, a person who drowns in 10 feet of water and a person who drowns in 1 foot of water, both have still drowned and died. I think it's about, if you have the chance to help a friend feel better, just do it.
So, when you were working on your book, did you take inspiration from any other books?
I think so. I think unconsciously everyone always does. This book I got, 10 Ways to Stay
Oh, I
Creative.
love these books.
These are fun. So I didn't try to like emulate this book. This book is great when you're feeling stuck and I'm like writing about something and I'll read a few pages and I'm like, oh, okay, I feel a little bit better. So Keep Going by Austin Kleon. This is, I just kind of kept it there. And I liked how it said keep going. So every time I felt like, you dumb. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, okay, I'll keep thanks. I think in terms of writing style, I like the style that there's an author, her name is Mary Roach. She does like a lot of science writing. She's like 4 or 5 books out. I like how she makes science accessible, easy
Mhm.
to understand. So I kind of tried to emulate that. The accuracy of the facts in here, I really wanted to emulate like Wired or National Geographic.
If you were to pick 3 books as your desert island books, which ones would you take with you?
Okay, I recently read Educated by Tara Westover.
Oh, love that book.
Oh, that book is so good. There's another book. Oh, I'm forgetting all these names. I'll email you and you can tag me. I forgot the name. It's like outside. The whole premise of the book is like, if let's say you show up in a random year, you can build anything from scratch. So all the way from iron ore to fire to vaccines. It kind of like explains science and how to like make things from scratch. That book is so good. That's another one for like very survival reasons. And then the third go-to book. Does it have to be a real book? Can it be like does it have to be like a text? I was literally just gonna say like I would love to have like a sheet of government contacts.
No,
Like,
that's not a book.
I guess maybe I would just do this one, this Keep Going guy. It's like a short one. You get inspiration. So when I'm at
Hmm.
my island and I'm like, the other book that I'm talking about, that I'm blanking on, that gives you like a whole list of edible plants, which is great.
Uh-huh.
This will kind of help me inspire with
Oh, I
recipes.
like that choice. Nobody thinks of like a survival guide ever when I ask this question.
The survival book, you need that. Like, how do I know not to eat this plant, to eat that plant, don't get hives, and I do.
Last question. If you were to pick one interesting life experience to share with us, what would you tell us?
So the Webby Awards, that's like the internet awards.
Mm-hmm.
So my company, we had gotten a Webby Award for best productivity tool 1 year. And that was kind of my project to take on. So I got to go to the Webby Awards. And that was very exciting. Got to accept the award, got to go on stage, the whole thing. And at one point, they ask everybody who's a Webby Award winner to go to like this back room to get your photo taken because people are typically important. I was just there. I guess I was important enough to be in that room, but I wasn't noticeable. So I'm in this room and I have this like cool cassette purse. It literally looks like cassette tape. And it's like next to this other woman's purse. And I look at her, I'm like, oh, cool, we like matching purses. She's like, oh, thanks. I look at her and she's like the CEO of Glossier. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Turn around. Hassan Minaj is like in the corner. Like, oh my God. And then I see Monica Lewinsky enter the room. And I'm like, oh, she's a notable figure. And then I turn around, get my picture taken, come back. Issa Rae is just chilling there. And Issa Rae has tweeted and talked about using Trello. And my team had this plan. Like, if I was to run into Issa Rae, I was supposed to give her a Taco Bell gift card as like, we love you. Thank you for using Trello. I just approach her. I'm like, hi, I'm Rani. I work at Trello. And I was expecting like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. Instead, she's like, oh my God, it's so good to meet you. I love Trello. And it's like, I just like talked to her as if like I mattered. I gave her like a little Taco Bell gift card. And then the best part of this, in this room with Monica Lewinsky, Hassan Minaj, the CEO of Glossier, and Issa Rae, talking to her amidst all these important people, the random photographer happens to get a photo of me chatting with Issa Rae. And that's one of the photos that like is on the internet. It's like it's there. That was an awesome experience that I flex so hard. I have not told many people that story. Thank you for asking that. It makes me feel so cool.
Thank you for answering my questions, Rani. It's been great getting to know you.
Oh, well, appreciate it.